The next type of chart we are going to learn about is the bar chart, and we will see where it is used and how to read it. To add a bar chart, we go to our Add a Chart tab, navigate to the Bar section, and select the first option called Column Chart. Okay. Notice that by default, it brought me the same data I have in the pie chart. However, this is not advisable. It's not that it can't be done, it can be done, but it is not recommended to use a bar chart to show the same information that we could show with a pie chart. What is the bar chart used for? The bar chart is generally used to relate dimensions that do not represent a total. We see that this dimension has its categories, which represent the total data, which in this case are the views. However, we do not want to show that in the bars. This could easily be shown with a pie chart. Here I want to show categories that do not belong to a total. So I will change the dimension that is being displayed. I will show a dimension that is not complementary or related. So I select my chart and will change the dimension from gender to event name. What happened here? When I marked the event name as a dimension, the chart seemed to be showing us incorrect data. But something happens. We need to maintain coherence in what we are showing, both in dimension and in metric. That's why it is very important that we always know our data sources. Although this is not a Google Analytics course, it is important that we know something about analytics, and that with the data we are going to work with in our reports, we have a clear idea of what is happening. If I'm selecting event name, I cannot directly relate it to views. What I should do here is change the metric from views to event count. Notice that the chart changed, and now has coherence between the relationship of dimension and metric. Now I no longer have the number of views, but the number of events corresponding to event name. Why do I tell you that this is not a related category? Because a person may have triggered more than one event while browsing the website. For example, when a person enters the page directly and navigates through it, they might have registered a page view event, but they could also have filled out a form, viewed a promotion, or scrolled. But this is not necessarily exclusive. In contrast, we cannot say that a person who entered my page is both male and female at the same time. If it is one, it is not the other. This does not mean that we cannot use the bar chart for that purpose, but it is recommended for cases where the pie chart cannot fulfill its role. Now, let's look at a variation that appears in the bar chart. We go to Add a Chart and see that there are different types of bar charts. We have stacked columns and 100% stacked columns. Let's select the stacked column chart and see what happens. When is this chart used? Notice that it brings me a very good example for using this chart. A stacked column chart is used when we want to relate two dimensions. For example, here we see the age dimension also related to the gender dimension against the views. So look at what happens here. We have the age dimension as the main dimension and a breakdown dimension, which in this case is gender. We will see this later. We will learn to manage breakdown dimensions in a more advanced way. But bringing this graph into play, we see that the age dimension can also be broken down by the gender dimension, and this is where a stacked column chart starts to make sense, as we can have a breakdown of another related dimension. For example, here we have two demographic data points. Now, let's look at the next variation of the bar charts. The next type is the 100% stacked column chart. Let's select it and place it here. Let's make sure it brings us the same dimensions we saw in the previous chart, so we can observe its uses and the differences between the two. Once we have the chart set up, we can see how it presents the information. Let's imagine that the 100% stacked column chart behaves like a pie chart. So, what can we read from this? This type of chart shows us the percentage share of each gender within each age range. It's like performing a breakdown and making a pie chart for each of the age dimensions related to the sex dimension. The difference with the previous chart is that in the stacked column chart, we see total or aggregated data, whereas here we are seeing the percentage of participation over a total. The other types of bar charts are the same as we have seen with these examples, except that their orientation is horizontal instead of vertical, but they serve the same function.